A woman impersonated a doctor for 3 years. A study shows people prefer a threesome with a robot instead of a human. And the police have a large taxidermy bust with over 1,000 illegal stuffed animals. These are the weird stories for Wednesday on Weird AF News, the only daily weird news podcast hosted by a comedian. I have 3 weird segments. They're from around the world. They're a little strange, I think. Let's try it. A woman impersonated a doctor for 3 years without undergoing any medical training. I can relate. I've impersonated a podcaster for 3 years without undergoing any podcast training. That's why I'm in a closet. Let's get some more information about this lady. A 31-year-old lady was recently sentenced to 2 years in prison for impersonating a physician and then an ophthalmologist for years without any medical training whatsoever. How do you pull this off? It began in 2018 when Sonia, a 31-year-old woman from Meaux in northern France. Did I say that right? Meaux? Meaux. I think it's pronounced in northern France. Yeah, I nailed it. Sonia decided to try her luck as a physician. Try her luck? Sorry, but this isn't something you can just try your luck at, lady. It requires quite a bit of education and commitment. So she tried her luck as a physician without undergoing any medical training. She had a bachelor's degree in real estate management, but she didn't let that get in the way of attaining a lucrative job as a general physician. How? How does this happen? She forged a bunch of diplomas from the faculty of Strasbourg. Okay. But, you know, when you're in a job interview, you don't ever have to pull out your diplomas. I mean, that's fine for after you get the position. You put them on the wall, your fake diplomas. But how do you get the position? She forged a false certificate on the board of the Order of Physicians and not only got the job, but saw patients as well. She saw patients for 3 years before anyone noticed that she had no business being a doctor. That's a long time for nobody to notice that you're an idiot. Nobody was like, hey, man, I came in here with a cough and now you took off my ankle. What's the deal? I don't think you're a physician. I don't think you have medical training. I came here with an eye infection and you gave me an enema. What's going on here? This lady not only practiced medicine for almost 3 years until being exposed in October of 2021, but she then moved on to the next best professional career, this time becoming an ophthalmologist. She's wow, man. To make matters worse, for most of her time as a physician, she wore a tagging bracelet around her ankle for crimes committed previous to her appointment. She had an anklet? Yeah. You didn't track her down at a medical facility and be like, what are you doing here dressed as an employee of a medical facility? You're supposed to be at home or wherever. She obviously has a parole officer. How is she getting away with this? Oh, this woman is nuts. This is outrageous, this lady. It says here she was able to use the identities of 2 actual doctors who happened to share her same name. And while at it, she was able to earn nearly 70,000 euros a year from her fake career. During the 3.5 years that she worked as a doctor, Sonia performed around 20 vaccinations against COVID. She prescribed various medications despite not knowing what she was prescribing. During her recent trial, the mother of 3 explained that she was, quote, driven by the need for money. She was sentenced to 3 years in prison, 2 of which represent, quote, hard time without the possibility of parole. I would still like to know how you get into this position, man. I mean, a doctor, that's a pretty lofty, occupation. You can just show up dressed as a doctor and now you're doing it. I just don't get it. I couldn't show up and sneak into a Subway restaurant and start slapping meat on a bun without somebody like, hey, man, I don't think you are a Subway employee. I mean, how long could I go with that before getting caught? You know what I mean? I couldn't even show up at a library, pretend I work at a library, and that doesn't even require a uniform. You can wear your plain clothes before someone's going to be like, hey, you know what? I don't think you work here. What's going on here? You could pretend to be a doctor. There was that guy in Florida that did this a few times. I covered that story. He couldn't stop impersonating doctors. He's addicted to it. Finally, they threw him in the clink. The clink? Is that a thing? Sorry, I was watching Sopranos. I got these old school. Throw the book at him. Okay, well, that was fun. Yay! People prefer a threesome with a robot over a human, according to a study. I'm going to say a study paid for by the sex robot industry, but let's find out exactly. Let's find out if this is a legit study. The article begins by saying, humans are overrated, man. A recent study concluded people would rather have a threesome with a robot than go through the hassle of finding a willing human participant. Well, it is difficult to find a willing human participant for your threesome. The results showed 2 in 5 people, in fact, were open to the idea of having sex with a robot. Well, I mean, it's one thing to be open to it, it's another to prefer it. I highly doubt people prefer sex with a robot over human. It says here, more surprisingly, it found that more people would prefer to be intimate with a sex bot than have casual sex with a human lover. Bull crap, man. I don't buy this for 1 minute. The company that did this is Sexual Alpha. They surveyed 3,292 people. From where? The future? Come on. 3,000 people that all had herpes and were completely bitter about getting together with a human? Like, who did you survey? They wanted to find out about their familiarity with and interest in getting intimate with a robot. Well, not a lot of us have familiarity with getting intimate with the robot, but if you want to pass out some free sex robots, I'm not against that. I'll try it out. The online adult retailer acknowledged that their sample size was small, but they purposely sought open-minded individuals. Here's a quote from Sexual Alpha. This must be a sex robot maker. They say sex bots are becoming an increasingly realistic option for people, so we wanted to find out how many people had personal experiences with sex robots, what people thought about interacting with them, and what they think might happen in the future, per Sexual Alpha. The participants were instructed to assume they were single and desired some kind of sexual release and were presented with a list of potential options to satisfy this desire for a release. Now, masturbation was the number one choice, most popular, 49%, followed by a sex toy, 42%. 37% of those polled said they might make love to a sex bot. More than 30% said they would be likely to invite a human over for casual sex. Hiring a human sex worker came in last, with only 21% of people choosing that. Okay, now some of these make sense, but others do not. 37% said they'd rather have a sex robot, 30% a human. I don't find that to be truthful. I'm very, very skeptical about the data, guys. Sometimes the sound of science isn't so scientific, is what I'm saying. Sexual Alpha conducted 2 surveys using convenience sampling. The first asked questions about sex robots to about 1,500 people, while the second went into further detail about more specific interests and personal experiences, with 1,700 participants. Prior to the questions, a short video was shown to better explain the current state of sex robots, where sex robot was defined as, quote, any sex doll variant possessing some interactive capabilities such as speech or movement. You can actually see the full survey from sexualalpha.com. I don't think we need to see it. We got the gist of it here. And I don't agree with the claim that people would prefer a threesome with a robot over a human. I just refuse to believe that. I think you're just trying to sell 2 sex robots instead of 1. That's what's going on. Clearly, this is motivated by commerce, as oftentimes, quote, studies tend to be. You got to see who's financing these studies before you make a decision. You're like, do they have an agenda? Yeah, of course they have an agenda. They want people screwing sex robots. They want to sell sex robots. Now, I'm not against trying a sex robot. I'm not at all. I'm not against experimenting in that world with all kinds of stuff. You know, sexuality is great, and it covers a lot of ground. Why not explore it? You get this one body, you know? Well, some people think you get more than one body, but I'm just saying, this body that you have right now, you know, you got this one body for this go-round. So why not have some fun with it? Try out some things. I'm okay with chemicals as well. I don't recommend it without a chaperone on duty. I'm on chemicals right now, by the way, because I could barely get out of bed today. Jonesy's suffering. I could use a I could use a fake doctor right now. Could you combine a sex robot with a fake doctor and send it over my house? Make sure she's, I like a tall brunette. Now, let me end this with a question to my listeners. Would you prefer a threesome with a robot over a human? Would you prefer to make sweet love with a robot over a human? This is something that we might have to encounter in the future as sex robots become more ubiquitous. Some of you might be frightened by robots and very apprehensive at incorporating robots into your life in ways like this because you think the robots might take over humanity, and it's quite possible. I mean, 5 minutes in a closet with a sex robot, they might twist off your head. The other head, you know what I mean. You like podcasts? You're listening to my podcast. Maybe you thought to yourself, I'd like to make a podcast. Too difficult. No, not with Anchor. Anchor has free creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast from your phone or your computer. Anchor distributes your podcast to Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, and more. They have advertising integration, so you can even make a little money off your podcast. Everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. And good luck with your podcast. Good luck with your creation. Good luck with your life, man. The police just cracked down on the largest taxidermy bust in history. Police in Spain seized a private collection of more than 1,000 stuffed animals, over 400 of which were actually protected species. This massive taxidermy collection, which included cheetahs, polar bears, rhinoceros. They were displayed in 2 large warehouses in a place called Beterra, Spain. This is considered the largest discovery of taxidermy animals in Europe and the largest of protected stuffed specimens in Spain. The owner of the collection is currently under investigation for smuggling and violating the protection of animals, of course. The police were tipped off about a possible taxidermy collection in Beterra, which is a small town north of the eastern coastal city of Valencia, in November 2021. After the police investigated this, they were able to locate the industrial warehouses, which were around 5,000 square meters across, where they found, in the end, a total of 1,090 stuffed specimens. Out of the 1,090 taxidermied animals, 405 are protected by the CITES Convention on Wildlife Trade. This is an international treaty that aims to protect endangered plants and animals. Now, curiously, the collection also included a North African oryx, which was declared extinct in the year 2000. A group of addax, a critically endangered species of antelope from the Sahara Desert, and the endangered Bengal tiger also included in this collection. Reports show that the private museum also displayed nearly 200 large ivory elephant tusks, as well as lions, snow leopards, and alligators. The police in Spain estimate that this collection is worth over 29 million euro. The Civil Guard is currently looking over the documents provided by the owner of the collection to justify the possession of these stuffed animals. The CITES agreement requires official permits for the possession of specimens, whether dead or alive. The collection's owner is said to be a wealthy businessman from Valencia who claims that he inherited these stuffed animals from his father. He has not yet been arrested. After seizing the collection, Spanish authorities are contemplating whether the collection can now be displayed at a natural science museum in Spain or donated to a nonprofit organization for research purposes. Yes, that's exactly what you should do with these animals. And you should penalize this individual via fines or jail. You should fine him exorbitantly and take that money and give it to the organizations that are trying to protect these species. That's what should happen as well. Take some money from this rich person and, help the organizations that are probably struggling. They probably don't have huge budgets to save these animals. I'd imagine they don't. I don't know. I mean, from my understanding, it's difficult to catch the poachers in Africa that are, just wantonly killing elephants for their damn tusks. It's a very sad situation. I hate to bring it down a notch, guys, but those places need funding, man, is what I'm saying. So why not make this rich man fund some of that? There's something wrong with you if you have over 1,000 taxidermied wild animals. It just is. You're creepy. You're super creepy. If I go over your house and you have 3, I'm like, oh, no, I'm not staying for coffee, bro. I'm out. Like, it's just a weird thing to have in your house. Do you guys remember that scene in Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, when Jim Carrey, he's over at this guy's home and he opens the door and it's just like a taxidermy room and he just freaks out. It's so funny. That's a very funny scene. Hello, Jim Carrey. Dude has brought me so much joy in my life. Hey, my loyal listeners, thanks for joining me for an episode of Weird AF News. Despite my voice being screwed up, you stuck with it. Appreciate you. I want to give thanks and praise to a couple of people who joined the Patreon in the last 24 hours. These people are very special. First, we have Earl Benway. Yes, Dr. Benway. You guys know Dr. Benway? Isn't that a character from Naked Lunch? I think so. Anyways, Earl Benway joined the Patreon. Thank you, Earl, so much. I appreciate that. Where you from, buddy? Message me. I want to know. Also, Rachel Frazier joined the Patreon. Oh, the lovely Rachel Frazier decided to support Weird AF News with a cup of coffee a month for Jonesy. Keeping me caffeinated, Rachel and Earl, and I appreciate that very, very much. Please know how much I'm grateful when you decide to support the show by joining the Patreon. It's a sign that you give a damn, and I like that. Please enjoy the extra content that's in that Patreon, by the way. I'm going to put up some stuff today, a couple videos and a couple articles. And yeah, so check that out. Some fun stuff. You guys can check it out too by joining. Yeah, it doesn't cost very much. Just buy Jonesy a cup of coffee. Now, I know there's inflation and it's hard to do so. So that's fine. If you can't afford to throw Jonesy a couple bucks, write a review of the show. It's really a great help. I would recommend 3 or more stars. Yes. Now, I'm biased, but I recommend 3 or more stars. You can leave a review on Amazon or Spotify or Apple Podcasts, also known as iTunes. If you'd like to join the Patreon like Rachel and Earl, these amazing individuals, go to patreon.com/weirdafnews or go to weirdafnews.com and click on the Patreon banner. That's an easy way to do it. All right. I'm going to get off because I'm losing my voice. I hope I have a voice tomorrow. If there's no episode tomorrow, you know what happened. I just completely lost it.